gotta go to the hospital, my leg.
Yeah, we gonna get you to the hospital.
After he was shot outside the hookah lounge. But the struggle for survival that followed wasn't amicable. Vaughn survived 2 surgeries before things took a bad turn, according to his cousin.
He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the second surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse.
Security footage from those last moments has just come to light, and what it reveals is far more bizarre than anyone could have imagined. The startling reality of King Von's final moments during surgery. Rap history was permanently altered in the early hours of November 6, 2020, when King Von, one of Chicago's most infamous drill rappers, was shot and killed outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. The shocking reality of what transpired during those last moments at the hospital, however, is something that most fans are unaware of. It's such an amazing narrative that it sounds like something from a drill music legend. The frenzied shootout that resulted in Von's hospitalization was captured on surveillance footage. But what transpired behind those hospital doors was unknown, until Bo came out with an account that rocked the hip-hop scene. This revelation received over 400 votes and 300 comments from shocked fans, according to a Reddit thread titled, "Bo explains how King Von died during surgery," that was published on March 18, 2025. Bo claims that King Von did not pass away peacefully. Von had the same ferocious street mindset that made him a famous in Chicago's O Block and beyond, even as physicians battled to save his life. Von reportedly regained consciousness and sprang off the surgical table in a moment of pure adrenaline and street instinct.
He had 3 surgeries, but he made it. He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the second surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse and asked the nurse, "Where's his gun at?"
According to a March 2025 Worldstar hip-hop post. Still in survival mode despite his severe injuries, Von apparently clashed with hospital workers and demanded his firearm in what sounds like a scene from one of his own tracks. Bo claims that Von died of shock as a result of this last act of defiance since his body was unable to cope with the severe physical strain and the gunshot wounds. Some of the responses after the reveal were as follows. "That's the most Von thing I ever heard. Died how he lived. A real soldier." If you know Von's music, you know this is exactly how he would go out, looking for his pole till the end. Bro was ready to slide on his ops from the surgery table. That's why he was the most feared in Chicago. In 2025, this account received hundreds of shares and comments on social media, demonstrating its rapid growth. As admirers argued over this latter phase of Von's life, the story sparked heated controversy. We must comprehend King Von in order to comprehend why this tale has such a profound effect on fans. Von, whose real name was Davin Bennett, was not your typical rapper. He was considered by many to be one of the most feared members of Chicago's drill scene, and his reputation went well beyond his music. On the streets of O Block, Von had already established a formidable reputation before his rap career got off, under Lil Durk's label, Only the Family, OTF. Many people thought that his genuine storytelling in songs like Crazy Story and Took Her to the O was a reflection of his actual experiences on the hazardous streets of Chicago. And it was more than simply art. Von embodied that unadulterated Chicago spirit. He lived the streets, not just rapped about them. For his fans, this account of his last moments makes sense because of this. It fits the description of the man who never gave up and was always prepared for whatever that came his way. Those who know Von said that he embodied the same fire in real life as he did in his music. His supposed last moments, such as battling medical personnel and looking for his weapon as his life was coming to an end, have been included into the King Von mythology, solidifying his reputation as a soldier right up until the very end. But he did lose his life as a result of this action.
He died because he went into shock. So I'm guessing if he would have just laid there, he probably would have survived.
This anecdote is considered by Von's loyal fans to be the best evidence of his character. A guy who lived and died by his code. This story of Von's last stand has been incorporated into many memorials made by admirers on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Supporters wrote, "Von really jumped off the operating table looking for his gun. Most gangster I ever heard. Long live Von. They can't say they slid for Von no more TF. Forever. This why the ops was scared of him. Even dying he was ready to blow. Real demon hours." Other artists have even used this incident as inspiration to write songs that honor Von's renowned last minutes. Since the story first arose, references about jumping off the table and searching for the pole during surgery have been used in numerous drill tracks, solidifying this story's place in hip-hop legend. Medical doctors may wonder if it is possible for someone who has been shot numerous times to survive long enough to engage in physical combat or to regain consciousness during surgery. However, Von's purported last moments are the pinnacle of his authenticity in the drill rap industry, where legends are based on unshakable toughness and street reputation. This event is frequently mentioned in murals and memorials to King Von in Chicago's O Block and throughout the nation. Toy guns, which represent the weapon Von supposedly wanted in his last moments, are left as tributes by fans. More memorable than any of Von's record covers or music videos is the picture of him getting up off the surgery table. Several commenters wrote, "This why they dropped the charges against his killer. They knew what type of demon Von was. Even dying, he was a threat." Von didn't die from gunshots. He died from being too real for this world. Looking for his pole during surgery is the hardest thing I ever heard. This the type of story they'll tell about Von 100 years from now. A real legend. Regardless of whether you accept Bo's story or not, its influence on King Von's history cannot be denied. His admirers saw it as the ideal conclusion to the tale of a man who lived for guns and eventually lost his life in pursuit of them. It's a story that crosses over into street mythology and goes beyond ordinary celebrity death stories. Ultimately, King Von himself has been eclipsed by the tale of what transpired in that hospital room. Years after his passing, drill music and street culture are still influenced by the legacy he left behind, which is a testament to the life he led. For King Von's admirers, this is more than simply another story of a rapper who passed away too soon. It is the concluding chapter in the tale of a real person who lived authentically to the end of his life. King Von apparently died of shock after jumping out of his hospital bed and fighting with nurses while searching for his gun following surgery, according to content published by World Star Hip Hop on March 19, 2025. Bo tells how King Von died during surgery. He jumped off the bed fighting and reaching for his gun and died, was a Reddit post from R. Churicology that day. It received 418 votes and 348 comments. A YouTube video titled, "New Video of King Von Jumping Out of His Hospital Bed Looking for His Gun During Surgery and Dying," was posted on April 10, 2025, and purported to be real footage of the event. The storyline behind all of these allegations is the same. King Von attempted to carry on the battle from his hospital bed because he was so dedicated to living on the streets even after suffering severe injuries. If verified, the story would only serve to further solidify Von's standing as a valiant soldier who lived and died by the street code. The problem is that there isn't any actual hospital footage in any of these posts. Instead of real hospital security camera footage, the YouTube videos with these claims in their titles usually feature commentary over still photos of King Von or recycled music video and interview snippets. I never had words with them. The lethal conflict between Quando Rondo and King Von. Long before King Von and Quando Rondo would meet that fateful night in Atlanta, the seeds of their rivalry were sown. We must look at this feud's roots in the intricate network of street relationships and label connections that characterize the modern rap industry if we are to fully comprehend it. As a protege of Lil Durk, King Von, born Davon Bennett, rose from Chicago's infamously violent O Block neighborhood and signed to his Only the Family (OTF) label in 2018. Around the same period, Quando Rondo, whose true name is Tiquian Bowman, was born in Savannah, Georgia, and joined NBA YoungBoy's Never Broke Again, NBA collective. It was more than just conflicting record deals at play here. Hip-hop's OTF and NBA represented opposing forces with animosities between the camp's leaders, NBA YoungBoy and Lil Durk, brewing for years. These conflicts were unavoidably passed down to their artists, who became combatants in a Cold War that few fully comprehended. In particular, the first public interaction between Von and Quando occurred in 2018 or 2019, when King Von publicly criticized NBA YoungBoy's songs on Instagram Live, casting doubt on his street cred with remarks such as, "The fuck YoungBoy talking about on this song, bro? He's talking crazy. He ain't even like that on his nah cap." Even while this might sound like standard rap arrogance, Disrespect like this is rarely tolerated in the extremely sensitive drill music community. The fact that King Von appeared to minimize the impending confrontation in an interview just days before his passing adds even more tragedy to this situation. He said, "Ain't no rap beef and ain't no real beef unless somebody got shot." His statements would turn out to be eerily prescient, hinting at the impending carnage. The events of November 6, 2020 would permanently change the course of many people's lives and careers. Surveillance footage taken outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in downtown Atlanta at around 4 a.m. showed what started as a random meeting between two groups and turned violent. King Von and his team were leaving the lounge when they noticed Quando Rondo and his friends in the parking lot, according to several confirmed sources in the CCTV footage that would eventually go viral online. Although there are differing opinions of what transpired next, it is evident from the video that Von approached Quando's group before a physical altercation broke out. The scenario quickly became much more heated. Before someone who was later identified as Quando Rondo's close accomplice, Timothy Lul Tim Leaks, emerged from behind an SUV and started shooting. Punches were thrown. During this first round of shooting, King Von was hit several times. Von and fellow Chicago native Mark Blakely were among the 6 persons shot in the tumultuous scene, 3 of whom died. Due to the presence of both on-duty and off-duty Atlanta police officers in the area, this incident is very complicated. Although official findings from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation show that King Von was shot during the original civilian exchange, not by police gunfire, these officers intervened and returned fire. Von was subsequently driven in a private vehicle to a hospital, where he would eventually pass away from his wounds. Tragically, the life of one of drill music's most promising storytellers was cut short at the age of 26. Following the well-publicized shooting, the police responded quickly. One day after the event, on November 7, 2020, Timothy Leaks was taken into custody and charged. Lul Tim, who was injured during the gunfight and was actually taken into jail while still in the hospital at Grady Hospital, was charged with felony murder in connection with King Von's killing. After Lul Tim was arrested, the Atlanta Police Department reportedly thought they had strong proof that he was the shooter and ended the homicide case. But in the ensuing months and years, the court case would take a number of surprising turns. On March 27, 2021, Lul Tim was given a $100,000 bond after his legal team successfully appealed to the Superior Court, even though murder is not a bondable charge in Georgia. King Von's friends and supporters were instantly incensed by this contentious choice. On social media, Lil Reese, a fellow Chicago rapper, menacingly declared, "We going to roll his ass up real soon." 2 other people were also arrested as a consequence of the investigation. Kevin Jones was charged with aggravated assault, and Johnny Harris was charged with possessing a firearm by a convicted felon. While the Atlanta Police Department continued to concentrate on the civilian homicides, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation pursued its investigation into the officer-involved shooting component of the case. However, the most unexpected event occurred in August 2023 when Timothy Leaks, also known as Lul Tim, had his felony murder charges dropped before he was even charged. Although the Fulton County District Attorney's Office never formally revealed the precise basis for the dismissal, his lawyer Noah Pines confirmed the startling development to several news sites, a conflict that was already raging out of control. On social media, diss recordings, and with a growing amount of violence in the real world, would only get worse with this rejection. After Von's passing, the long-simmering tension burst into a full-scale conflict, which started with a struggle fought on social media and in music. Both sides acted swiftly to shape the story of what transpired on November 6, 2020, that night in Atlanta. Quando Rondo made it clear that he saw Von as the aggressor in their confrontation when he released End of Story, a song that addressed the altercation and reinforced his self-defense narrative with lyrics like, "Look at the footage. That's all the evidence. See them pushing. Shouldn't have ran up on me." The song was released just 2 weeks after the fatal shooting. The title of the song itself seemed to be intended to evoke strong feelings, implying that Von's tale had come to an end. Rondo continued after it. He stated in an interview with Angela Yee in April 2021 that he was asleep in a car when the shooting started and didn't realize it was King Von until the next day, stressing that, "I never in life had words with them ever." He also refuted claims that he attempted to take Von's chain following the shooting, calling them outright untrue. Quando Rondo received a lot of criticism for acts that many felt were insulting to Von's memory, even in spite of his denials. He allegedly dissed King Von during a virtual concert on April 3, 2021, rapping lines like, "He got caught without that pole, and now that on I'll piss on his grave." He also reportedly bought Lil Tim a pricey diamond-encrusted watch, which DJ Academics posted on social media, demonstrating his unwavering support for the man suspected of killing Von. King Von's close buddy and mentor, Lil Durk, also didn't keep quiet. His musical rebuttals were more nuanced and coded at first, but they soon grew more straightforward. The conflict between the groups grew increasingly intense, eventually involving NBA Youngboy and Lil Durk in what was turning into one of the most dangerous feuds in hip-hop. By 2022, what started out as a personal feud between King Von and Quando Rondo had escalated into a full-scale confrontation between their opposing factions, with Lil Durk's Only the Family, OTF, and NBA Youngboy's Never Broke Again, collective serving as the battle lines. The song, This That Squid Game, O Block Pack Get Rolled Up, from NBA Youngboy's January 2022 release, Bring the Hook, appears to mock King Von's passing and his O Block neighborhood. Lil Durk responded to this seeming disregard for Von's legacy and Chicago heritage with his own song, Ah-Ha, in which he made direct reference to Von's passing with phrases such, "Nas actin' like they really like that since my Brody died." However, the conflict extended beyond music. Violence in the real world persisted in both groups. Quando Rondo was the target of a gunshot in Blackshear, Georgia, on May 3, 2021, although he was not seriously hurt. When Quando was involved in another shooting on August 19, 2022, in Los Angeles, where his cousin Savoy Robinson, better known as Lil Pab, was slain, the situation took a sharp turn for the worse. This shooting would turn out to be especially important. They can't say they ain't slide for Von no more after Lil Pab's death. OTF affiliates reportedly celebrated the incident, with one associate, Brick Baby, saying it was retaliation for King Von's death. The implications were obvious. The Slide for Von movement, which had pushed Lil Durk's camp to retaliate for Von's killing, had possibly found its target. Nobody realized at the time that this episode would ultimately result in the most severe legal repercussions in this murderous conflict to date, with ongoing effects to this day. The lethal outcomes of King Von versus Quando Rondo range from beef to murder for hire. The battle that developed in the days after King Von's passing would go well beyond ordinary rap rivalries. Tensions between the camps of NBA Youngboy's Never Broke Again and Lil Durk's Only the Family, OTF, were already simmering dangerously as fans lamented the death of the Chicago drill sensation. Rap business rivalries may have deadly repercussions that go far beyond diss recordings and public posturing, as evidenced by the real-life violence that quickly followed the musical and social media confrontations. 6 months after King Von's passing, on May 3, 2021, Quando Rondo was shot in Blackshear, Georgia. Although no direct links were ever formally confirmed, the incident was generally perceived as possible reprisal from OTF affiliates, even though he was not seriously hurt. On August 19, 2022, Quando Rondo was involved in another shooting, this time in Los Angeles, which resulted in the death of his cousin, Savoy Robinson, also known as Lil Pab. This caused the situation to drastically worsen. This terrible incident would subsequently play a major role in the federal case against Lil Durk, as prosecutors claimed it was a planned murder-for-hire scheme rather than an isolated act of violence. The feud reached its most surprising turn in October 2024, some 4 years after King Von's passing. Lil Durk was taken into custody by the U.S. in Florida. Marshals facing federal charges in connection with an alleged murder-for-hire conspiracy against Quando Rondo, which authorities said killed Rondo's cousin Lil Pab in the August 2022 shooting in Los Angeles. A U.S. indictment was filed. The Los Angeles District Court revealed what prosecutors said was a well-thought-out operation driven by retaliation for the murder of King Von. Durk was accused of a number of serious crimes, including conspiracy to commit murder for hire involving death, murder for hire resulting in death using interstate facilities, and several firearms charges, including using a machine gun in a violent crime that resulted in death. Federal prosecutors claim that Durk paid for 5 individuals: Kayvon London, Grant DeAndre, Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, and Asa Houston to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles in order to carry out the hit, thereby funding and organizing the operation. Financial records demonstrating OTF-linked credit cards used for travel arrangements were among the evidence offered, as were damaging texts such, "Don't book no flights under no names involved," that suggested an attempt to hide the connection. The prosecution's case was further reinforced by location information that showed Durk was in the San Fernando Valley on the day of the shooting. Bookings for international flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy were mentioned as proof of Durk's alleged attempt to leave the country after his companions were arrested, which was perhaps the most incriminating. According to some accounts, Durk might be sentenced to the death penalty, in addition to the statutory maximum of life in federal prison, if found guilty. Due to the intricacy of the case, which included 20,000 pages of reports and more than 230 gigabytes of digital evidence, his trial, which was originally scheduled for January 2025, was moved to October 14, 2025. In February 2025, Lil Pab's mother, Andrea Laquila Robinson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Durk, his business manager, and another corporation, further complicating the issue. Durk's legal team, however, has contested the evidence, claiming it is based on false information, such as song lyrics that the prosecution has used as evidence and YouTube videos posted by fan accounts. Two significant players in this story approached the worsening circumstances in rather different ways while Lil Durk's legal team fought federal accusations. Quando Rondo announced the release of his new song, Life Goes On Instagram 3 days after Durk's arrest, coupled with a mysterious message. "We didn't enter this music business to make it just to stay in this street," he wrote. "Families and communities rely on each of us. Time to move on from all of it. We've already lost a lot, and I find it difficult to forgive people I've had problems with in the past. It's all love on my part. I'm praying for everyone." Despite without specifically mentioning Lil Durk, many people interpreted Rondo's timing and content as a reaction to Durk's arrest, possibly as an effort to defuse the situation. In sharp contrast to the vicious rhetoric that had dominated the feud for years, Rondo's letter expressed a wish for peace and reconciliation after losing his cousin and experiencing several attempts on his life. This case presents serious issues for the music industry regarding the connection between artistic expression and actual violence. When fans read retaliatory lyrics as promises that must be kept, and when social media magnifies these expectations, artists may find themselves caught in increasingly intense conflict cycles from which they are impossible to break without losing their reputation. The growing use of song lyrics as evidence in criminal cases, which disproportionately impacts rap artists and raises questions about racial bias in the legal system, is demonstrated by this case, according to legal professors and criminal justice advocates. This continuing controversy is brought to light by Durk's legal team's objection to the prosecutor's use of his lyrics. In the meantime, this quarrel has permanently changed the lives of all those involved. At age 26, King Von's bright future was cut short. Quando Rondo lost his cousin and was the victim of several assassination attempts. One of the most well-known rappers, Lil Durk, could potentially be sentenced to life in jail. Additionally, the continued violence has resulted in the arrest, injury, or death of innumerable associates on both sides. The fact that this tale is still going on with no obvious conclusion is maybe the most concerning aspect. The legal actions against Durk guarantee that the fight will be in the public eye for years to come, possibly inciting more violence and vengeance from devoted supporters on both sides, despite Quando Rondo's seeming cry for peace.